Hey there, NASCAR fans. Have you got your copy of the latest edition of NASCAR Pole Position Print Magazine? If not, there's no better time than now to subscribe at polepositionmag.com. NASCAR Pole Position is the only print magazine covering NASCAR. Officially licensed by NASCAR, NASCAR Pole Position Magazine is published throughout the NASCAR season, and each edition is an instant collector's item, packed with great feature stories and photography. The magazine is even mailed to you in a poly bag for those who love to collect NASCAR memorabilia. At polepositionmag.com, you can even find past issues available to purchase. Get your subscription to NASCAR Pole Position and get great NASCAR content delivered straight to your mailbox throughout the season. Learn more at polepositionmag.com. That's polepositionmag.com.
Hey y'all, Rick Houston here, and I want to tell you about my new show, the Moonshine and Motorsports Racing Podcast. I've partnered up with the state of North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources to help uncover the history behind moonshining mountain boys, professional wheelmen, and the backwoods and city lights of the Tar Heel State. In the first episode, I sat down with Winston Kelly at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for a little behind-the-scenes gossip about Junior Johnson's engineering skills.
He's got two things in his hand, pipe wrench and channel lock pliers. And they weren't new. They had been around the block a time or two.
Wasn't the first steel they built, I bet.
No. I think the pliers had been red before, but paint had worn off.
And in the second episode, I talked to a professional hillbilly, a.k.a. Dr. Daniel Pierce of UNC Asheville, to find out the real history of moonshiners and their battles with the revenuers.
He wrote about one of his experience of trying to chase down this bootlegger in this souped-up car, and he complained that the government gave him these piece of crap, cheapo cars, and that were really no match, but he thought he was doing pretty good, and then the guy just hits it and just takes off and practically disappear. But then the guy makes a bootleg turn and comes back towards him. And as he said, it was a game of chicken, and I was a chicken. And so he ran off the road. And actually, he was the guy who caught Junior Johnson at his daddy's steel when Junior got tangled up in a barbed wire fence.
So check out the Moonshine and Motorsports Racing Podcast, available on YouTube, dailydownforce.com, and all of your favorite podcasting platforms. And be sure to check out my regular show on NASCAR history, the Scene Vault Podcast.
Eric Estep here. One of my favorite parts of being a NASCAR fan is collecting diecasts. It's how I got my start on YouTube, actually. To me, a room is not complete until it features shelves of NASCAR diecast cars. It's as good a time as ever to continue your collection or begin an all-new one by pre-ordering your favorite driver's 2022 next-gen diecast at LionelRacing.com or at any authorized Lionel retailer. Lionel is the official diecast of NASCAR, and don't miss Lionel Racing's NASCAR Authentics diecasts at a Walmart or Target near you. Not only is Lionel the official diecast of NASCAR, but they're also official supporters of the Out of the Groove podcast network. So what are you waiting for? Head to LionelRacing.com to order your favorite driver's 2022 diecast.
You're listening to Maiden Level Cross, presented by Pristine Arts. I'm Thad Moffitt.
And I'm Rowland.
And today joining us is a very special guest, Greg Steadman.
Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Greg Steadman, and I've worked at Petty Enterprises, Petty's Garage, since 1994. I've done a lot of jobs here. So currently the COO of Petty's Garage. So what do you guys want to talk about today?
Everything, Greg. We want to get into the nitty gritty of your life.
There's a lot of stories we can't tell.
There's a lot of stories we probably can't tell, but
let's start with growing up. So you grew up. I've got to work with you a little bit over the past year and a half and got to know you a little bit. And I know you good enough to know you grew up down in Florida. So how did you end up in small town Level Cross? What intrigued you to get up here?
Grew up with a racing family. My dad was in NASCAR. The rest of my aunts and uncles and everybody we have was some form of a car person. from the time I was 10 years old. I think I went to a drag strip every day of every weekend, and did drag racing through those years because that's what they did at that current time, right? So they were involved in circle track racing at some point. But so doing that, we traveled to the racetrack and did that. And interesting enough, this is a very small world. And one of my uncles, Terry Kimball, he actually dated Colleen Loomis, which was Robbie's sister.
Wow.
So I met Robbie way back in the heyday when he was in Florida working for Gary Blue and those guys.
That is a really small world. I did not know that.
So when I decided that I was going to get married and carry on forward with a real life, I decided to get a real job. And evidently it was in racing. So I had a little bit of an opportunity to do drag racing, and I looked at the schedules of racing, and the drag racers, they never really came home a lot sometimes. They'd go to the West Coast swing, they go out and different things. So I was like, okay, well, being a newlywed, that's probably not going to fly very good. So the NASCAR circuit at that time, you left Thursday, you come home Sunday night every week pretty much. So that's where I sort of just took the contacts I knew and started asking around.
Going back, I know your dad worked at Nichols Engineering. What do you remember about that?
Nothing. I was born there in maybe 9 months old or so, or so when the Petties come and shut us down.
Well, that's what Thad and I were talking about it earlier. I think
ironic.
That's the biggest irony of you now having a role here, having a role for this long, is the very people that put your dad out of a job. Now you're leading the enterprise here. So I thought that is a small world between Robbie Loomis and that.
Yeah.
You can't make that stuff up.
No, Tex Powell actually worked at Nichols when my dad was up there.
No,
so he
wow.
was Tessie. So Tex ended up
crazy.
Down.
So you said that you traveled, or like NASCAR at the time, you traveled like Thursday through Sunday, but you were on the road and working in the shop, right? So it was like a Monday through Sunday job when you started with Petty Enterprises?
In 94, 95, all the way through the early 2000, it was a little different atmosphere than what they have now. Yes, because you went to the race, you practiced and qualified on Friday, you had to make the race, and Saturday was a practice for the race, and then Sunday was your race. So and the teams were smaller. The sponsorship wasn't as much in the late 90s, early 90s, late 90s as it was in the 2000s.
We're jumping ahead a little bit. So it sounded like you were heavily involved with drag racing, or at least your family was. What got you into what made you want to go into NASCAR? Was it just all that circle track racing too that you grew up around, or what attracted you to
competition
NASCAR?
In general and cars?
Okay.
Like I say, the drag racing side of it is extremely fun. I did that about 3 years when I left Petty's Garage for a brief time, and drag racing is just exciting.
Right.
It's quarter mile, everything's on the line. It's where the NASCAR side of it is, you're under that gun for the whole race or for the thing there, but there's just not that. It's just a little different atmosphere and just a different feeling on the drag racing side. So the real reason, like I said, I did it was because it was a professional job. You get paid to do it like a normal job, and insurance and all those things. And you could work on cars. So why not go do that, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a goal in mind? Like, was there a specific team you wanted to work for, or did the Petty thing just happen vicariously?
The real story is I've been going to school in Dayton, Kelly, and we went. I did the Ford Asset program and was going to get a job in a dealership, and I really didn't really think I wanted to pursue that. So I was working with one of my uncles doing construction. Like I said, everybody we worked on houses, cars, something, and then we got married in November 5th of 1994. The week after, I was up here handing out resumes, and December I was hired here. So there was no plan, there was no nothing. It was going.
You came up with resumes. Who else were you giving resumes to?
Hutcherson Pagan, Robert Yates Racing, anybody and everybody. I just lived in an apartment.
But
it
wasn't.
A lot of stories you hear in NASCAR,
But was it strictly NASCAR teams, or was it any type of racing?
NASCAR teams.
NASCAR teams specifically. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you got the call from who from Petty's? Do you recall?
Robbie, one of the guys that did mechanic. He had quit and went to Bill Davis, and he called, and I think I'd I'd worked at the Precision Tune for a week, and I promptly loaded my toolbox and came here.
Were you excited?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I ever really get too excited.
Yeah.
It's focus, and you want to win, and you want to be good, and you want to be part of somebody that's
more or less saw it as an opportunity.
To be good at something. And
there was nothing about the Petty name that like got you really excited, or was it just this is a really cool job?
No, I mean we grew up watching and listening to it, so
it's a pretty big deal. Like,
whether it was Petty or whether it was Robert Yates or whether it was whoever else.
But no disrespect to Robert Yates. I mean, the Petty name is just. It's synonymous to greatness in NASCAR. So
yeah.
Just growing up in this area, though, like even myself, like if Rick Hendrick were to call me, like that's
huge.
Yeah, that would be huge. I mean, Richard Petty, Rick Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, like if any of them were to call me, like I just top of the mountain right there. So I mean, from
Greg is cool as a cucumber right now, though. He's like, yeah, I got a call from Petty's, and it was pretty cool.
Well, you take it as a challenge to can you be as good as what they are, right? So I mean, it's not really. It didn't come in as a fan or anything, It's sort of one of those things that, this is going to be my living, and I have to perform in order.
Right.
I was going to be a tire changer and do those things. So I mean, it was like exciting, but still, it's sort of a gut check. Hey, you're going to have to get after it.
So so you come here, you move. You move up here? Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
In Level Cross.
Yep, and Randleman, which is about probably 5 miles from here.
Okay. And what's your first day like? Do you recall that?
Spent all day up in the bus barn changing tires. I wore out about 30 nitrogen bottles probably.
Oh, man. Dad, you know all about that, right?
Yeah, the bus barn.
Yeah,
I'm not the first to spend all day in the bus barn.
So December was basically, practicing tire changing.
Yeah. I can speak from working with Greg and the experience. He kind of does just take everything. Like some things are really exciting to me and a little overwhelming, and then I turn around and Greg's just working. He's just head down, just making the most of the opportunity. So I'll attest to that. Even back in the day, I guess that's how it was when you first showed up. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what was your first interaction with Grandpa when you got here, and what was that like?
With Richard, it was Dale and Robbie. For the most part,
right.
Richard sort of at that point. So I couldn't tell you the exact day or time or anything really. It was more Dale Inman. It was on top of you and, pointing his finger in your chest or grabbing you on the arm and making sure you were doing right. Richard was in and out with that. Decals, what the car looked like, those types of things, details of how high the hood pins were set and things of that. That was what Richard come by and went out, adjust that a little bit, move that a little bit. So those things really.
Yeah. Who was the driver? Was it Hamilton?
Bobby.
Bobby
came on board at that time.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it wasn't too long ago. You told me that you wrapped what was it? Was it the 25th anniversary STP car?
95 would have been. Was that 95 the anniversary years?
That sounds about right.
96,
they came on board in 72. So, but I thought that was neat. That's a really cool looking paint scheme.
Yep. We had a lot of paint schemes, a lot of different uniform changes. So,
and you still have a lot of those uniforms, right?
Yeah, I did. I've got quite a few of those things, and then a lot of it we actually donated to Victory Junction when they started because they were looking for fundraiser items.
That's awesome.
So, you go through the hums of working here. Your first victory, right, was with Andretti, correct? You were on the
Bobby and Phoenix.
Okay, Bobby Phoenix. Gotcha.
Yeah, and then Rockingham.
Okay.
Right. I think so. Phoenix is the first one. Yeah.
That sounds about right. What's it like being in Victory Lane?
I mean, you see a lot of different things, but that's just, and Richard will tell you, that's what we got paid to do, win races. And that was when the day we did our job, right? That was so,
right.
That's, it's exciting for sure, but the next week you got to go do your job again. So that's the fun part about it. My personality is just, I'm going every week and I want to win and do the best you can to do it. Might not always work out. There's a lot of circumstances that play into it, but when you leave the building, you better believe that you can do it,
So I think one of the big milestones, if I can say this, I mean, John Andretti's win at Martinsville, 1999.
That was good.
What position were you at that point? You were a car chief?
Car chief, still changing tires. part of the pit crew, and just basically just hands-on on a little bit of everything for the car.
Why was that so special? I mean, people look back at that win and like that's a crowning achievement in Petty Enterprises history.
I think that was John's first win in NASCAR.
Yeah, yep. Up there,
for us, Martinsville was just one of those places that we wanted to go and
Sure.
just win at. That was, I mean, from Robbie and Richard, and that was sort of a home track for us, and we were really good there. And to go there and win, and it was always a fight. The 2 tires, the 4 tires, the long fuel runs, just the way the track raced back in those days, it was a battle. And racing hard. I think that was probably the one. I think he raced Jeff Burton pretty hard.
Yeah,
there at the
right.
end.
Mm-hmm.
So just the adrenaline from doing that in Martinsville is just fun. It's like a bull ring.
Yeah. So getting started, you came here and you were kind of just a tire changer and a mechanic on the car, and then you eventually worked your way into a crew chief role. What was that like, and when did you get that call to kind of move up and be the crew chief?
Those years in 2000, Kyle was coming back. We built the building in the back, 98, 99, had the other team there, and they told me I was going to crew chief Kyle's car.
Wow.
Until about 3 weeks later when Robbie went to the 24. So that's why I moved back over to John.
Okay.
So it just circumstances in this sport, circumstances and things happen, and it just, you take them and you run with them. So it was really, sort of went from being a 2-car deal with 43 and 44, and I think Bobby Leslie or something stayed on and did the 44. But year 2000 was a tough year for us with, family. Just we lost Adam, we lost Lee. Just a lot of things there right in the month of May. We were in Pontiac that year. We were switching to Dodge in 2001. So we had a great group of guys, but it was just it was extremely amount of fun. But when you look back at it, it was just a lot going on.
That was nuts. So,
it's the year I was born.
Yeah, that was the year Thad was born.
You were born.
Do you remember any of that, Thad?
No. No.
It's a rhetorical question. But Robbie went to Jeff in 2000. But you knew you were getting a crew chief spot at that time. When are you told you're
somewhere around that Thanksgiving time, probably?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like you mentioned, 2000, you're in the swing of it, and Lee unfortunately passes away, and then Adam has his wreck. But John was your driver. Was there chemistry from the year before with you two?
Yeah, we'd been together, so there was John would run through a brick wall if you asked him to, and so he was one of those drivers that you knew you had a pit stop at the end, you 10 to go, and you put 4 tires on, you were going to pick up some spots, so there was no doubt when we left that we were going to fight hard and run for whatever we could get from that standpoint. Like I say, the challenges with some of those years on the transition with 2000 was, like I say, the Pontiac was on its way out, and the Dodge was, so the focus gets a little distracted. So we had some amazing qualifying runs and different things with John, and different from 2000. And then 2001, we kicked off with the Dodge. A lot of growing pains with that program.
Right.
Finished second with him at Bristol. And that's probably the maddest I left a racetrack, finishing second. Just because
that's how close you were to tasting victory.
Yeah, we should have won. We led a lot. It just circumstances.
And it says a lot for, you guys going from Pontiac to Dodge. That's got to be. There's definitely some pressure with that, because who else was Everham
come here. They actually worked in the back and did a lot of the R&D back there, and Richie and Timmy and Mark's buildings, and because Ray didn't even have a building when he started that, so wow. we worked hard with those guys.
Very cool. So you're with John. How long are you crew chiefing with John?
Through 2002 sometime or something, and then there's a lot of things happen. And like I say, I think, different people come in, and Robin had come in, Pemberton and stuff, and switched up some things. So we moved around. We had 3 cars, then we went to 2 cars, and I sort of played a competition director role, tried to corral 3 teams into one team, and a lot of those things were happening in those years with Hendrick and with Gibbs and all that. Everybody was expanding from single car teams to multi-car teams and trying to harness that from, just having that many. At that point in time, when we had 3 teams here, there was 200 or 300 people wandering around here. Fab Shop was in Thomasville, so it took a lot more direction from people overseeing things than it did when it was a 1-car team. When we were setting it up on a plate, and 30 yards over there, they were building the next car on a surface plate. So completely different atmosphere when you go into the multi-car teams from what we had.
From where you were at Petty Enterprises back in the day, and then you just recently were at Stuart Haas a few years ago, what have you seen like the biggest differences, like growth-wise in the sport, or just what are things that stick out to you from what you did here in Level Cross to what you did in Concord with Stuart Haas just a few years ago?
And I always tell people the racing, when they throw the green flag, it's still a race, and I don't care what kind of car it is, what it is, you still have to perform from the time they throw the flag until the time they throw the checker flag. So it doesn't matter what type of car, what kind of circumstances are thrown at you, you have to be the best at overcoming that. The preparation, the style of racing, and just other things have changed over the years, where it used to be you had to go qualify for the race and make the show, or they'd send you home. That doesn't happen today on that scale. There are some non-charter teams that can get sent home. So they're back there fighting for their life. But that was the norm for anybody back in the day. And now it's really more about preparation at the shop and things, from that standpoint, and just a lot bigger atmosphere than it was when it was just small single car.
Well, because now, you go and you don't have happy hour, and you don't have the practice before qualifying, and you don't change motors.
No.
It's just totally different. Like if we do get practice, it's 30, 45 minutes, and then you're qualified.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a whole lot different now than it was back then.
A lot more done at the shop, and a lot more technology put into it. The more the downforce came into play, it requires more paying attention to those details versus back in the older years. There was a lot more gray areas to play in. So different teams got their different ways by how they pushed the rules, right? One team might push chassis rules better for their driver, and one team might play the aero game better, but everybody got to the end result.
Right. So in 2008, Petty Enterprises pretty much closes its doors. You were still here when that happened. But, as sad as that might have been, Petty Enterprise shut down. Petty's Garage comes out of that. It's like the phoenix from the ashes. You had a big part in Petty's Garage. You still do, but where did the idea come from? Who was involved? Who were the players besides yourself?
When we left with the race team, we took darn near everything. Equipment, machinery. There was not much that we didn't really take when we moved. There was a couple of people that didn't travel. We had a bus sprinter that a lot of people rode back and forth and did different things when we moved. But when that stopped, I still lived here. The shop had been sitting empty for a year, and it was full of just stuff, that just boxes, and I don't know where it came from. Just old things got sort of moved in, but there was a few surface plates and a little bit of equipment that we didn't take. So really there was 2 or 3 guys that were here that were painting some cars for Richard, doing some stuff for the museum, and not a lot of other than personal stuff. I thought about it. We had gotten close with the Dodge group. We were still racing Dodges at the time, and the turnkey drag racing cars were very popular. Dodge had the body in white, but they didn't have a turnkey one. Ford had a turnkey car. We actually went to Dodge, and we were going to try to build the turnkey cars out of here. The economy crashed on Dodge also, so that didn't come out of it. So we in turn went into the street car side with the aftermarket performance parts and the Signature Series vehicles.
But it worked out, because Dodge Challenger, which, they discontinued.
It was brand new in 2008, 2009. So the
timing couldn't have been more perfect for the garage to start.
Yeah, the first year cars we did, we supercharged and had all that. So we had 650 horsepower Challengers in 2009 to compete with like your Shelby Mustang or a Roush car. So it was exciting, for Challengers owners and Dodge and all those things at that time for that.
All right, shifting gears a little bit, we'll get back to the garage. Let's talk about Thad. So, obviously you've known Thad since he was a little kid, since he was born.
2010, 11, we took you out. John Hayworth and I, we took you out into the parking lot out front with 2 cones.
Yeah.
And strapped him and Harrison in, I guess they were little
quarter midget
cars that somewhere your dad had wrestled up somewhere, and we stuck them both in the car. Thad barely fit. He was a little husky boy back at that time.
I was.
We squeezed him down in there, and he ran circles out in the front parking lot for a while.
Yep. That was it.
You remember
after
that?
Yeah, after that it was hooked. I think Harrison knocked the fence down in the front yard a couple times, man. There was like a little gravel spot out there, and every time you hit it, you got loose.
Brian, John, and myself, watched him turn his first laps out in the front parking lot.
Unbelievable.
With 2 cones as our racetrack.
2 cones.
Fast forward, Thad, you had a little bit of a time between that to your late model stuff, right?
A little bit of a time. It's like half my life at this point. No, I ran the quarter midget stuff. And I had never raced that competitively, actually. I practiced a couple times, and I did the deal out here. And then Grandma got sick.
Yep.
And that put a halt to my racing stuff. And so then I got a go-kart. And once again, John Hayworth took me to Liberty. And we unloaded, and neither of us knew what we were doing. But we did it. And we went out there and sat on the pole, our first go-kart race, got wrecked, led all the laps, and got wrecked coming to the checkered flag off of 4. But from there, we raced go-karts for a year and a half, 2 years, and then got up with Mike Cheat, and I ran with him in the late model stuff and some ARCA stuff for a couple of years, and then on to David Gilliland. And then this year I was back working with Greg again. So
I know because for the audience, Greg left the garage, went to Stuart Haas, and then you went to Roy Hill, and then you came back.
Yep.
And that was 2022, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are reunited from in the parking lot with little go-karts to Trans Am deal.
So Greg comes back like last summer, and I know of Trans Am, but I don't know a whole lot about it. And Greg has this connection with the Legacy group, Scott Legacy and his family, and he's been helping them for a couple of years. And he goes to my dad and he says, "Hey, what do you think about running Thad in the TA2 series next year?" And so somehow they just told me that I was going to drive the TA2 car, and I said, "It sounds good to me."
What did you think about that, Greg?
I had helped Scott Legacy them for a year and a half or 2 years, which John Hayworth pulled me down that path, and then went and helped them with Sam Mayer, and Connor Mozak was learning at that time and doing stuff. And it's really fun racing. It's a little bit like racing back in the 90s on the NASCAR side, that it's a lot easier, a lot more laid back. But the cars are extremely, I think, fun to drive. I've not driven one, but they're very similar to what you would call an Xfinity car or a stock car, right?
Yeah, it's the same transmission. You have a little less horsepower, but you're still on a radial tire.
Yep.
You got that
Good
big
aero.
wing on the back. Yeah, you got aero. Aero's a big deal. Even on the road courses, I didn't even realize this year that aero was such a big deal on the road courses, but it definitely was. Especially those places like Road America where you're going fast for a long time in a straight line. I mean, it makes a big difference. It's like running down the front stretch at Pocono or something, you know. So definitely a cool series to be a part of. And once again, it was like 40-plus cars. I mean, the least we raced with was like 32 this year. So it was like a stacked field every time we went out and ran. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. What I took away the most from it, you know, is that I could go back and watch what I did every single lap. And so that was very helpful to me as a driver to be able to go back and see, man, I really messed up my shift right there. Or I don't know how many nights me and Greg took the computer back to the hotel room and watched our messed up qualifying run or practice laps.
And locked him out of the hotel room, right? Isn't that what you guys did?
In Lime Rock?
Yeah.
That was not a hotel.
You really screwed Greg there.
It was a
bed and breakfast, even worse.
It was a bed and breakfast, and there was a door code for the front door, and for some reason Greg could not find the door code, and he called at 1 o'clock in the morning.
You were asleep.
And I was asleep.
Poor Greg, man.
Walked out to the car the next morning, and Greg was sitting there in the car. I felt so bad, man.
That's something I have to bring up, and I've heard it from a lot of people around here. Greg is, gosh, you'll sleep anywhere, man. You'll work till the break of dawn, but you don't.
The Legacies will too, so that's why I was there.
Yeah.
So,
But even here, Brian.
So I'm not the only dumb one. There's more of us out
Brian
there.
has said he found you in a truck out here sleeping. This was back in the day, and it just that story reminded me of.
Well, we left the racetrack at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock that night, and Greg said, "I'll be there in a couple hours."
Yeah, a couple hours turned to 1 a.m.
Yeah, so it got to be like 9 o'clock, and I texted Greg. I was like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yep, still working." I was like, "All right, he's all good." I went to bed.
Still working.
Yeah, he showed up around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., somewhere in there.
The cars were going straight to Detroit.
Yeah.
So we prepped a little bit and before everything loaded and headed to Detroit.
What's it like having Greg in your ear with the TA stuff?
I think it's good. I mean, it's helpful. He has a lot of knowledge for sure. He knows a lot more about the racing stuff than I know from that standpoint, as far as working on stuff, crew chiefing the stuff, calling the race, kind of telling me what I need to do at certain times, kind of telling me who's catching me, who I'm catching, where the leaders are running, what they're doing, maybe a little different. But the road course stuff is so hard because he can't see everything.
Sure.
So we ran into a lot of problems this year where I'd be 2 miles away from him on the other side of the track, and we'd be talking to each other and couldn't hear each other.
It definitely, and that's the things that I like about that series, though. Is everybody doesn't have a spotter. You got to have mirrors. You got to be self-aware of where you're at, where they're at. I think it helps them as a driver be more aware of what their surroundings are, no different than guys that drive late models and sprint cars.
Yeah.
You can hear where that guy's at. You know where his left front tire is by how loud it is or something. So let him learning that thing versus a spotter driving you around the racetrack from day one. I think that's good from just learning. And the road course stuff, especially too, every corner is different. And halfway through the race, it's different because they put down oil and speedy dry and everything else. So as a driver, he's constantly just learning constantly.
And for me this year, I mean, it was 90% learning. Like, we went to Road America. I'd never seen the place. We got like 3 laps of practice the first practice, 4 or 5 the second practice, and then we go out there to qualify, and the track's got oil all over it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a learning experience for me. I took the green flag with like 10 total laps on the racetrack, and we ended up running in 8th that day. I mean, it was a good, solid day. What we did good this year, especially towards the end of the year, was like make the most of our day. No, we weren't out there winning races and setting on poles every weekend, but we got to where we were consistently top 10, top 5 team every week, and showed a lot of growth. For me, I mean, I didn't know the first thing about road course racing when I went to the Legacies. My shifts were bad, and my braking was awful. I mean, it was like almost like I didn't know how to drive a car. I mean, we unloaded at New Orleans in January, and I ran like 4 laps or something. I come in, we watch the video. Every time a senior's watching the video, he's like, you can just see him, clenching up, man. My downshifts were rough, and so they coached me a lot, and coupled with Greg, I mean, he definitely critiqued a lot of my stuff, and then we just grew as a group. I grew a lot as a driver. I don't know if they could say that they grew a whole lot as a group because of me, but I definitely grew a lot as a driver.
From an outsider's perspective, I think each one of you, I mean, you guys did a really fine job last year. I saw the growth from a spectator and casual fan. I was not familiar with TA2 series too much, but it looks like you guys had a lot of fun. You grew, bonding with each other with the Legacies. It's a solid group of guys for sure. So, Greg, as we're winding down, this guy's going truck racing this year.
Yep.
What's your advice to him?
Yep, you just don't make mistakes and learn and get what you can get out of it, right? That's what we've learned through all that is the mistakes, especially on the truck races, are short. You don't have all the practice, so take every bit of learning experience you can get, whether it's data and sim time and all that now is important because you don't get the track time.
Yeah.
So it's just and don't make mistakes. That'll be the key to getting better everywhere. Run all the laps.
Yeah, I agree. That's something at the beginning of the year, especially like with the TA2 stuff, it might have not always been our fault, but we just didn't run all laps, or we got in a wreck, we got messed up here or there, and sometimes it was my fault. But at the end of the day, if you can just manage your race and run where you're supposed to run, and
that whatever the car speed can give you that week, that's what you can get out of it. It's not like you can, unless you can cheat a corner somewhere and chop off a second somewhere, half a second. So,
well, I know I can say as you can say as we're extremely thankful to have you here in Level Cross at Petty's Garage. I know we have a really big future ahead with the garage. You got some parts coming along here pretty soon for
next year. Next year should be a fun year for us. We've got a good group of people. We've been sort of getting back into the mode that we wanted to. We're performance oriented. We know a lot about suspension in cars and making them perform, and that's what we're going to do this year when we're out on the road, running the different series that are out there for the street cars and different things with our stuff, and out there with the guys having fun and making parts that guys need to run fast on their street cars.
So we'll definitely be seeing more of Greg out on the road with the performance tour. So you guys definitely check that out. That will be up on the Petty's Garage website pretty soon. You have any last questions for him? I do.
Go ahead.
I'm sure we'll come back. We could have a whole new session.
I know, yeah. Different. No, this has been great. We're bringing it back to Level Cross to end all this. What's biggest takeaway, biggest learning experience, best memory here? If you could sum it up in one thought, what's your biggest takeaway here?
And the reason I love this place and want it to do well and be here is because of the people before me, that the effort they put in, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Richard, Dale, Lee, all those mechanics and fabricators that put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in here, and that's for us to sort of carry on that tradition and represent it in the same thing. So that's the biggest thing that I see and want to keep here.
Love it. Well, Greg,
that's what Level Cross is about.
Amen to that.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep. A lot of them done it over the years.
Yep.
And beers. We can't forget about the beers.
Now it's our turn.
And the Dye Mountain Dews. So, not a sponsor, but
Moonshine.
I know Greg would like to have that.
Wasn't it Moonshine in Level Cross, right?
That's true.
You said beer.
Well, beer, I mean, trying to rhyme with
blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears. We're losing everybody at this point.
All right.
Greg, thank you for coming on board.
Greg, thanks for coming on to Made in Level Cross today. Yep. We enjoyed talking to you and getting to know a little bit about you.
Yep, we'll be here making history every day.
We'll be right back. But first, a word from our sponsors. Pristine Auction is the most trusted sports memorabilia and collectibles auction site. Auctions on pristineauction.com start at just $1, and each day, thousands of signed items are available. So you win signed, authentic items at affordable prices. Every item on pristineauction.com comes with a certificate of authenticity from the industry's most reputable authenticators. Pristineauction.com is your one-stop shop for authentic signed diecast, helmets, trading cards, photos, and so much more from your favorite drivers. I've got my eye on this really cool Rex White autograph card, Dad. Fantastic looking piece. Would love to have it in my collection. What are you looking at?
Might be a little bit controversial here, but I got my eye on the Dale Earnhardt Sr. signed Kellogg's Corn Flakes box. So I think that's a pretty neat auction item, and we'll keep an eye on that one as it continues to move forward. So upgrade your collection today and get $10 off your first win using registration code THAD. Again, that's registration code THAD for $10 off your first order. Links are in the show notes. Induction Innovations is a leader in American-made handheld induction tools, home to the original mini ductor. For over 20 years, they have been innovating how mechanics can tackle challenges like Loctite, rust, and much more.
Induction Innovations Mini Ductor series was meant to free up components quickly using induction heat. The Mini Ductor is designed to help techs cut down on ticket times and say, forget that torch.
Induction Innovations. Do it faster, do it better, do it safer. Visit theinductor.com to learn more.
All right, Thad, we just got done talking to Greg Steadman, crew chief extraordinaire, CEO of Petty's Garage.
What are your thoughts? How'd it go?
I could talk to Greg all day, every day, man. I mean, I traveled with him this year. Me and Greg have a pretty good relationship, a good working relationship, and Lauren refers to him as my second dad. So we traveled the U.S. together this year racing cars, and so getting to hang out with him and learn about his past, and man, he's just really a diehard racer. He really lives for just working on cars and racing, just working in general. That's what he's about.
You know, Lauren at least calls him your dad at work. Everyone says he's my work husband. So, you know, that's a good way to segue into the garage. So, you know, Greg's a huge part of what we do at Petty's Garage. He's probably one of the hardest working individuals I've ever met in my life, both on and off the track. And for as long as we could talk here, I cannot say how grateful we are. I know you are as well, the family, for Greg. Absolutely incredible person. Really blessed to have him on board. I wanted to talk a few things about Greg, so I wanted to hear your thoughts about this. I'm definitely taking this data out of context, but I thought it'd be funny just to throw this out in the universe. So I'm looking over his racing reference, Thad. So he's the crew chief for John Andretti, like you said, 2000. His crew chief duties looks like they end at 2006 with Bobby Labonte, as he might have said. This guy brought in $14 million. Where's that money, Thad? Where's it at?
I don't know. If you Google me, it says from
you're $5 million, right? Harrison was asking.
My net worth is over $5 million. And
yeah.
Harrison looked it up and sent it to me, and I said, "Show me the money."
Yeah, I think they're talking about the earnings the drivers made, but I'll ask Greg next week when we're back there and ask him where that $14 million is. You know, another cool thing I've brought it up a few times with Greg, and Greg claims he's got millions of these things back at home. Have you ever seen the Greg Steadman, was it Apple Cheerios box?
Yeah.
You ever seen that thing?
Yeah. He was famous, man. He was a celebrity like in the early 2000s. General Mills used him up.
Yeah, the hamburger helping hand. I have that back at the office.
Yeah. Greg.
I'm just like looking at it. Greg looks so stoic here. Like that doesn't even look like Greg on the cereal box. We'll throw that on social so you guys can be the judge. I mean, Greg looks super, super focused. But anyway, very thankful to have Greg. Great interview on the podcast today. But let's jump into some other fun topics here. With that, I was looking over some past articles on you, and because of the season, it's favorite things, right? Have you ever seen The Sound of Music?
The Sound of Music?
The Sound of Music.
No.
You ever hear that?
No.
Julie Andrews?
Nope. Wrong guy.
Wrong guy. Well, listen, you've probably heard the song, These Are a Few of My Favorite Things, correct?
Yep.
You ever heard that song?
Yep.
All right. That's The Sound of Music. I know I'm dating everybody here except you, so we're definitely talking to the wrong audience. But for those who do know what The Sound of Music is and my favorite things, we're going to segue into an article from 3 years ago when Thad was an ARCA driver, and it's titled A Few of Thad Moffitt's Favorite Things. And I wanted to ask you how true these are today. So are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. You're in the chair now, boy.
This was
so one of the questions was, if you could go anywhere, where would it be? And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to see if you guess the answer that you had given to the interviewer for this article and see if anything's changed, okay? So the first question was, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
If I could go anywhere in the world, where would I go?
And I'm sorry, this was the lamest answer I've ever – I mean, unless someone's really into doing what they do at this place, which could sound very wrong in a lot of context. But do you remember what you said?
No, it was probably like Baden Lake or something, or Wyoming.
No, more west. I thought it was going to be something exotic or
more west.
You know, international. Yeah, it's farther west than Baden Lake.
Is it Wyoming?
All right, I'm keeping the audience in suspense. So you had said Aspen, Colorado. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Gosh. Well, you said Aspen, Colorado. For skiing purposes, of all things. I know you do ski.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
Just
I've never been.
Blew my mind, man.
Yeah.
Why did you say Aspen, Colorado back then?
Probably to go skiing and snowboarding. I was really big into that right before COVID, and then I didn't do it for a while, but I still do it when I can.
Have you ever been there?
Nope.
Well, listen, man, there's always time. All right, here's another thing. Here's another favorite thing to do, right?
Race cars.
What do you think your favorite thing was to – what was that?
Race cars.
Race cars. Yeah, well, that was kind of true, but more along iRacing, but something trumped iRacing. Do you know what that would have been? Puzzles, man. Puzzles. What's wrong with you? Yeah.
I like doing puzzles. You don't like doing puzzles?
No, not really. I mean, it's just I like those big ones for like toddlers.
Well, are you sure
that,
sure that question was like, what's your favorite thing to do?
I'm paraphrasing a lot of the interview and trying to use it for our segment here, but apparently your mom had brought a lot of puzzles back.
Phrased like, what are some things that you have done? Like, you're changing the wording on me. You get a different answer if you change the wording on me, Rowland.
Who's asking the questions here? All right, next one. Your least favorite class in high school. Do you remember what that was? This should be pretty easy for you.
My least favorite class?
Yeah.
Science or history?
It was English class. So what's the deal, man?
Yeah, English was rough. Yeah. Math was always easy to me, but PE was easy too. But the rest of it was hard.
You do mention that in this article. So, pre-race meal with anybody in the world besides family members. Who was that? Do you remember that?
No. Right now, it'd probably be Eugene George.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can do it anytime. I'm not a celebrity, so who can you recall that you said?
I don't know. Tim Tebow.
Yeah, there you go. You got one right, man. So it's Tim Tebow.
Yeah, I like Tim Tebow. He's a good man.
I'm guessing that's when he had his, what was it, a Thunderbird done at the garage?
Well, he had his Thunderbird done like a few years prior to that, but I just like watching his videos and keeping up with him and how strong he is in his faith, like in everything he does. I think it's really cool.
Okay. All right. So you got one of them. So we all know what your first car is. And if people don't know what your first car is, it was a Camaro, 6-cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive. What was your favorite car, or what is your favorite car?
What is my favorite car right now? My new truck.
That's an excellent answer.
Action 46 Customers Bank Daytona truck is my favorite car ever right now.
That's an excellent answer. You really didn't give one, though. I mean, you kind of acted like the Camaro was going to be your favorite, but I was just curious if you had a favorite car, besides, of course, the Action 46 truck.
If I had to pick like an older model car, I really like the 69 Camaro. I think they always look cool. Like you can paint them purple and they look cool, or pinker and they look cool. It's just a cool looking car. But I'm not a big, I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily have like one favorite car. Like I think all of it's cool. I like Grant. Okay. Grant at the shop, you know, like if you ask him like what's your favorite car, he's going to pull up like 5 different pictures of some minivan that he saw.
Well, Grant's a strange dude, so we'll give him that. No, we love Grant. Grant's awesome. I love Grant's taste of vehicles. He and I have very similar tastes that a lot of people may not like minivans and station wagons. But all right, moving on. I know this is very painful for you. I can tell from your face. But pre-race ritual. Do you have a pre-race ritual?
I have a pre-race ritual.
Yeah.
We pray before every race, my family and I. But other than that, I don't know. In 2020, I would have been racing, but my first year with DGR, so I would have came from Grumpy.
Got you.
What did I have that I did there? Pennies? We had pennies.
Well, you mentioned eating a big breakfast.
Oh, I do eat that, yeah. Like race.
But is that a ritual?
No, I don't know if that's really a ritual, but like race day, I will eat like a big breakfast and then not eat lunch because Walker was testing with Grandpa one time, and he had just ate a sandwich, and I guess like he didn't chew his sandwich good enough, and he hit the wall and it came up, and he started like choking, and they had to save him. Yeah, I'm serious.
What do you mean? He was racing? I don't know. You got to tell the audience the story.
Testing, not racing. Testing.
Oh, testing. Oh, yeah, but still, he's in a vehicle. He's in a stock car.
Yeah,
right?
and he had ate a sandwich like an hour before or whatever, and it didn't digest, I guess, or he didn't chew it up enough. And when he hit the wall, his sandwich came up, got stuck, and dude, he was like choking, like he would have died.
Michael Waltrip. Michael Waltrip, we're talking about. Oh, Darryl Waltrip.
Yeah.
So now we have to get DW on the podcast to clarify this. When was this? Was this back in the 80s?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that when I started racing, Grandpa would be like, "Hey, don't eat nothing. Like, just be careful what you eat. Like an hour before you go out there." And so I just got to where I would just eat like a big breakfast and not eat any lunch at all.
But it sounds like he just threw up. I mean, it's not like does Jaws not chew his food?
I don't know, man.
We gotta ask DW then.
You know, like
I'm fascinated, man. I'm gonna be hung up on this now for the rest of the day.
I don't know, man.
Do you think DW? I've never heard that story, but I believe you.
Well,
I mean, if the king says it happened, then it happened.
Probably, but
okay. And then here was the last question from your 2020 ARCA interview. Chandler Smith wanted to know your thoughts on Panda Express. Have they changed at all?
Have they changed?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know. I remember what my thoughts were.
Do you remember what you said?
No, not in 2020.
Well, apparently you loved Panda Express. So I guess the question is, do you love Panda
Yeah.
Express?
Panda Express is great. Do you not like Panda Express?
I like Panda Express too.
I am pretty fired up at them. They took the sweet fire chicken off the menu. Screw that, dude. That's like my favorite chicken at Panda Express. Now I have to get the orange chicken and Beijing beef every time I go.
Well, kiss that sponsorship goodbye. So, moving on from there, I'm glad you have such strong emotions on their menu currently. Let's shout out to our friends at Daily Downforce. Josh Wilpowski over there, he did a pretty cool favorite things article with you. This happened more recently, so hopefully you remember what you said here, but we'll expand on what you said. So your favorite movie, you pretty much said anything NASCAR.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, for me, I told him also in the same interview, I told him it's either that or like a shoot 'em up movie, like American Sniper or the Equalizer, like an action movie where they're killing each other the whole time. But if it's not that, then it's like Stroker Race, Talladega Nights, Days of Thunder. Like those are some.
So no dramas or rom-coms or anything like that?
No, I mean, you think do I look like a rom-com guy?
Well, I'll jump ahead. You said your favorite actor or the person you wanted to play was Matthew McConaughey, who was like the rom-com legend from the early 2000s. So,
yeah, Matthew McConaughey, I said, would be cool to play me. I don't know if he would be the best fit, is also what I said in that interview. Because, I mean, like, Matthew McConaughey is cool, but I remember him. He didn't just do rom-coms. He did some cool stuff, man. He took his job really serious, like I take my job really serious. That's why I thought he'd be a good fit. Like, somebody.
You're too young, but that he definitely started with rom-coms.
Yeah, he probably did. But, I mean, he did that Gold movie. That was pretty cool.
That's what you remember, Gold?
No, all of them, dude. You just got to
Interstellar.
Livin.
Oh boy!
All right.
Listen, we're gonna be stuck on Matthew McConaughey because you're so hung up on him. But you got to watch 10 Ways to Lose a Guy or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
I've seen it.
Okay,
movie, dude.
You don't like that?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's okay. Yeah.
That's a perfect movie to sit with your lady friend and just enjoy it. You don't agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
We'll have to get Lauren on the podcast and see what her thoughts are on that movie.
Okay. Next question.
It's a universally enjoyed movie, but dude, you brought up the Matthew McConaughey thing.
You brought up Matthew McConaughey.
Play the tape. All right, favorite athlete outside of racing? You said Jordan Spieth.
Yep, I like Jordan Spieth. He's cool. He's really good in high pressure situations, and he's just cool, calm, and collected, and just kind of does his own thing all the time. And then, like, I followed that answer up with, it's hard to pick like a favorite NFL athlete right now. I don't have one specific guy that I just absolutely love, or same with MLB, or I mean even NASCAR at this point.
Well, besides Tim Tebow, have you ever met any pretty famous athlete before?
Yeah, a lot of them. MJ. Like 90% of the NASCAR field I've met at some point, they're professional.
They don't count.
Athletes, right? I mean,
They're your peers. I'm surprised. Do you like John Daly at all? That guy's like a legend.
I've never met John Daly, but yeah, I like John Daly. I think he's cool, but is he still a professional athlete, or he just kind of plays when he's not drinking?
John Daly does what John Daly wants to do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so food. Let's go back to Panda Express, the great debate there, because I guess you're pretty angry with them for taking something off.
Their menu needs to be changed back to sweet fire chicken. It's just a simple request.
We'll write to their corporate office here as soon as we're done here. But your favorite food is filet steak. Is that it?
I would say that I would say that it's tough for me to pick a favorite food because I'm so diverse in what I eat. I guess like I'll eat anything, like sushi. Like I'm not a picky eater at all. I'll try anything at least once. But I think when he asked, he said, "Okay, then what's something you could eat like every single day?" And I was like, "Filet."
You said steak.
Yeah.
How do you like your steak cooked?
Medium rare.
All right. Good answer, man.
Good answer.
Good. It is a good answer. It's a fantastic answer. Well, that's all I got for you with the favorite things, man. I thought we'd have a little fun with that. Go over some of these articles, compare notes, see how your answers have changed, which I think overall the segment was a complete failure because it was just so discombobulated, but we'll let the audience decide.
Why was it discombobulated? I mean, the main things are that
we're talking about Matthew McConaughey, and
but he's going to play me like if they ever made a movie, like if I had a Cars movie, like Grandpa does, at some point in my life, I would want Matthew McConaughey to play me.
Okay.
Or what about Tom Cruise? How old's Tom Cruise now, though? He's probably
by the time you get a movie deal, Tom Cruise will probably be in a nursing home. So
yeah, that's facts.
Wishful thinking, though. I admire you for that.
Maybe I should have just done like Zac Efron or someone.
Zac Efron, High School Musical. This is going swimmingly.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran? You are the American.
I should have done Ed Sheeran. That makes most sense.
I'm telling you, one day we'll get him to call in.
Okay.
Well, not call
What's
in.
next? Eugene George. Caitlin's going to have to edit us all out right here, so let's just take
Oh, yeah, big time.
What are we doing?
She's cracking up over there. Yeah, right back to you.
So if she thinks that that's funny, maybe she should just air this. And like
people like, dude, shut this shit off.
No, I'm not kidding, dude. Like Landon Huffman's podcast, like I was starting to listen to it, and like they just ramble on. Like they don't.
Oh, I know. They're the podcasts I like. They really are because it just sounds like someone's having a conversation.
Yeah, they're just sitting there like, man, I gave up drinking beer. 3 weeks later, I drank a beer. I guess I'll try again. Like, it's just casual conversation.
I guess if you don't like this podcast, then go listen to who's our biggest competitor right now.
Everybody.
Door Bumper Clear.
You know,
everybody.
If you don't like this podcast, just don't listen. Nobody's making you listen. Turn it off. I mean, we're not asking you to be here. Or we're not forcing you to be here. We're just asking you to be here.
What else you want to talk about?
I don't know, man. How much more do we get?
What's your favorite farm animal?
What's my favorite what?
Farm animal.
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Mine's a chicken.
Is that a farm animal? A buffalo?
Of course. A buffalo's a farm animal compared to a chicken?
No, I said is a buffalo a farm?
But listen, I gave you a buffalo for a farm animal, okay? That's very generous. And now you're questioning chicken for a farm animal?
I ask if they don't know who.
Do you know Old MacDonald had a farm? Do you know that song? At any point did he ever say Old MacDonald had a buffalo? What does the buffalo sound like? A chicken says, what does a chicken say? Cock-a-doodle-doo? Or is that
Caitlin in here said they don't know who Eugene is.
They don't know who Eugene is.
They will. By the time that we get to episode 10 of this podcast, they'll know who Eugene is.
Eugene is a very troubled individual, okay? So hopefully he doesn't ever come on this podcast.
What next, Eugene?
So, farm animals.
agree to disagree on Buffalo. Dude, I like this favorite things thing.
Okay. Then let me go.
Let
me go. I got next. Let me go.
Go. I got next.
Eugene, what your favorite Christmas movie with this time of year? If you had to single out one Christmas movie, what would it be?
Christmas Vacation.
I agree wholeheartedly. You got to go
wholeheartedly.
Vacation.
Did you see that there was an Instagram reel of, I guess, Fox asking NASCAR drivers what their favorite movie was, and I was blown away that I think Denny Hamlin was maybe two other people. Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman were the only ones to say Christmas Vacation. Do you know what every other driver was saying?
What?
Elf.
Elf.
Yeah. Now your grandpa said Christmas Story, which that is a great movie.
Yeah.
I think what did your Uncle Kyle say? I think he said It's a Wonderful Life, which is a good movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. But it was Elf, Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation. Somebody said A Muppet Christmas Carol. I'll have to go back to see who said that. What else is there? There is something else. Die Hard. Are you one of those guys who thinks Die Hard is a Christmas movie? No, I don't think so either. Dad, what's your favorite St. Patrick's Day movie?
There's no such thing.
Angel's Ashes. That's my favorite St. Patrick. Doesn't make sense. 4th of July movie.
On Eugene.
What's that?
I am a leprechaun.
You're like the fast Sheamus. You ever watch WWE?
All right, we need to finish this deal.
Yeah. Let's finish it, man. You keep yapping along. Okay, well, that was a fun segment, Thad. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Favorite things. We'd love to know what your favorite things are, so make sure you hit us up in those comment sections wherever this podcast is broadcasted, in the social channels and all that good stuff. You know what I wanted to do? I know you had shown interest too. We'd love to answer some of your questions. If you have any questions for Thad, hit up the Maiden Level Cross podcast pages on Facebook and Instagram and shoot us your question there.
Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Maiden Level Cross Podcast, and follow me personally at Thad Moffitt on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Be sure to like and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening.